My neighbor, he's from Fyn, which is the big island in the center of Denmark, and he grew up in an apple orchard. He said when he was a kid he could pluck 15 types of apple from outside his house, and the orchard they would sell over 30 species of apple. And today, and after he told the story, I was in the supermarket the same evening to buy apple for the breakfast, and I can buy one type of apple, and it's from Argentina.
I inherited from my mother an old Scandinavian cooking book, and I was looking into it as a book which I think is from the 40s, and it was amazing to see that many ingredients I couldn't find. For how long this offer hasn't been there? Why did it disappear or so? Where did it go? What happened to the countryside? Very big farm in terms of land, with very little people in it. And in this big piece of land, it's all the same color. It's all the same thing. Corn, 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 corn. The countryside became some sort of factory. You could make an analogy in between. You could make a comparison in between the landscape and the city. And this entire notion of productivity. We were saying, okay, in this part of the city, I only make housing, And the housing should be in a line, so I can put a crane and then build it in one go. It was really incredibly efficient. We look at this place today and say, oh, how much it lacks of life. There's huge efforts now to try to redevelop this part of the city. Why can't we imagine the same for the countryside? If you think about this extensive farming, I wouldn't like to live in there. There's something that we call Udkants Denmark, the outer edge of Denmark. It's part of the country which are literally falling out of the economy. They're starting to lose people because what's the horizon there? What are you going to do? Are you going to live in a factory? What is the overall export?
We were quite shocked about some of the discoveries here. We discovered that 62% of the land area of Denmark is used today for agriculture. Most of this land area is used for crops to feed the pig industry, but 90% of these pigs are exported outside Denmark.
I mean, this is the biggest, I think Denmark is the biggest exporter of pigs in the world. It used to take 2 years in 1900 to grow a pig for being slaughtered. Today it takes 1.5 months. You say 6 or 7 times faster.
Imagine if we would sort of gain so much more weight in so much less time. It's almost grotesque. It's very grotesque.
But also, it grows with more tits and more ribs, and it even able to give birth to more kids than it can actually feed itself.
So when 18 come out and there's only 14 T's, it's not rocket science, 4 of them die. So what's a result of ramping up this pig industry and this high productivity and super optimization? If we take the environmental cost, this is on the increase. The CO2 it means to transport and export these foodstuffs all over the world is phenomenal. Do we really want to keep fueling this if what we're left with is a Danish landscape kind of devoid of variety, devoid of diversity?
If it produces more CO2, if it produces less quality, you lose something. So what's the gain? We're getting more and more, efficient in producing, but in the same time, there's less and less job, and then it represents less and less of the overall economy of Denmark.
Is it actually correct then that we're using most of the land of Denmark for exporting, when as an economy driver, it's on the way down? I was recently in Bornholm and heard there of a farmer who inherited his pig farm from his father. And when he took it on, the farm had thousands of pigs. And he thought, well, okay, I'm going to downscale and let them roam the forest. This then alone gave him a very different type of pig. A pig which took longer to get to the 90 kilos, but his qualities highly increased. And then he's making this as an offer, and this is the very, very clever bit. For a very new market he's conscious he's entering. Where he can ask, do you want to put this on the menu and tell your customers about exactly how this pig is raised? What kind of taste do you want? But here's the interesting part. In the old model, based on high quantities, the farmer needed to produce thousands of pigs per year because his profit margin is only 1 krone per kilo. But in the new model, based on high quality, the consumer pays a bit more, but the farmer increases his profit margin dramatically. So to achieve the same profit, he can have a lot fewer pigs using much less land area. And then this is where the larger map comes into play. What then would happen if we keep that money coming in, not by making the amount of pigs we make now, but changing the quality? We have a flat economy. So right now we don't see growth. In this project is actually looking at the alternative to quantitative growth. Why don't we get much more out of what we have here? We say we can achieve a good economy by selling less pig of higher quality. This means we release a serious amount of square meters. We can then decide what we want to grow on this land.
So this is what I'm imagining, is that suddenly this really big field of corn could really become something totally else, where things start to work together, You see pigs running in the forest, eating mushrooms, and while, someone is harvesting honey. Is it possible to imagine that? It's a bit romantic, but well, why shouldn't we be romantic? That's also maybe it's time for that. To be a bit more emotional about many things. But no is not romantic in a sense that we're really looking into real figures.
The dispensable income in the 50s is of course much lower. We see very little difference on the amount spent on food, but our income has increased 3 times.
What do we do with our money? On one hand, food, it didn't really increase much. And on the top of that, a big part of this 3 times more money we get, we also use it for comfort, for things that, You know, computers, music, traveling. Maybe in that sense you could say food became less and less relevant. Is it a question of supply? Is it a question of choice? Is it a question of culture?
Hvad er det, grisen siger, Luna?
Det ved jeg ikke. Jeg smører lige derude din mad. Jeg smører lige din mad.
What is the real measure of growth if we're pumping into an industry to sell elsewhere? What is left of natural resource? Why don't we then revert, rather than giving a big mass of dubious lower quality to the rest of the world? Is that also a responsible position to take?
Maybe there's actually something else to produce. Maybe we could produce diversity. What if we would actually rethink it?